r/AskReddit. Teachers of Reddit, what are your stories of, oh god, this child is a sociopath. So I'm not entirely sure if this is sociopath or psychopath, but I had a child that was creepily into my pregnancy for the first 7 months. He wanted to name her, talk to my belly, etc. Then one day it clicked that I would leave, and he got really close to me and whispered, "When you come out, I'm going to kill you with a hammer. I hate you." I was shocked, so I took him with me to the office. The LSSP asked why he said that. He replied that it will take her away. I wanted to die, so she stays here. He was on a lot of medication for his incredibly violent tendencies. He had tried to kill his sister before by pushing her in front of a bus. His mother kept him locked in his room at night because she had found him standing over her with a knife. Edit. The child was a male 10 years old. His mother agreed to have him committed after he attempted to kill a police support dog using a pair of scissors. MHMR and CPS were both involved. I haven't seen or heard from the family since I left the district. I worked with a student who would fit this description. The stories of the things he did are extensive. One example is that he got up from his seat to throw something away. On his way back, he walked up behind a student who was distracted working on his assignment. Out of the blue, he pushed the working student's head forward and into the desk. He gave him a bloody nose. There had been no previous altercation or source of friction between the two. His parents were divorced, and his mother was too afraid of him to have him during the days she had custody. His father would move him frequently from school to school once his behavior got so bad that the school started the process to get him into psychiatric care. I was often substituting a special needs class, 6 to 7 boys about 8 to 10 years old. The days were normally lively, but I always had everything under control, and the boys had learned to trust me and at least tried to do what I told them to. Never had any real problems, just normal stuff. Then one time there was a new boy in the class. Their teacher had written me a note that said to keep a close eye on him at all times. He had the telltale features of a fast child and small black eyes like a shark. He never showed any emotion whatsoever excluding immense excitement if someone else got hurt in any way. Few days passed without any incidents, and then, out of the blue, he stands up in the middle of class, yanks the much smaller guy sitting in front of him down with his chair from behind, and starts to pummel him in the face with his fists. I ran to intervene and grabbed him off and set him in a corner, ordering one of the trustworthy boys to run and get the principal here. Now, the attacker stood in the corner, emotionless as ever and completely calm. I turned to check out the crying kid on the floor, and miraculously he seemed unharmed, but was just shaken by the surprise attack. I sat down on the floor to calm him down and to help him up. Next thing I know is a shark-eye kid standing beside me and stabbing me on the leg with my teacher's scissors, the only pointy ones in the classroom. It was then when I realized why the attacked kid wasn't badly hurt. Shark-Eye was big for his age, but he had no physical strength at all. I didn't even get a bruise from his stab. My trusty Lee's jeans stopped the blade, which I instantly took from him. I threw the scissors on top of a high shelf and ordered everyone else out of the classroom to wait for the principal's arrival while I watched over Shark-Eye. Boys ran out. Shark-Eye looked at me curiously for a few seconds and sat down at his desk and continued his math assignments like nothing had happened. I asked him quite sternly what had made him attack a fellow student. Shark-Eye lifted his empty gaze and said, "I heard him laughing at the school cafeteria. I thought he could have been laughing at me. Law and all, can we play football today in PE class?" The boy had no empathy nor remorse. The episode meant absolutely nothing to him. When the principal arrived, we went through the situation and the class affirmed my description or events as they had happened. Shark-Eye's mom picked him up early and he stayed at home for a few days. The principal told me that this was not the first such incident and that the boy was on cue for a hospital school class. The principal commended me for my actions. I was very young at the time and was surprised that I had been able to keep my cool even after getting stabbed, even if the attempt had been pitiful. Turned out that's my teacher's superpower. I never lose it. Even when I've been spit at, got chairs thrown at me, someone trying to gouge my eyes out while holding them, more than once, etc. Luckily the years in the same school have accumulated my reputation, and nowadays it's very rare that someone even dares to try to mess with me. This incident was nearly 20 years ago, but I'll never forget it. I have a million stories of students who say borderline sociopathic stuff, but the worst thing I've ever heard to date was, "I can't be trusted with knives. My mommy hides all knives in the house from me because I've tried to stab everything and everyone. I know if I stab an animal or a person too much they might die. This would mean I'd go to jail, and I don't think I could make it in jail. So I want to find a dead body and stab it over and over again. This way I know I won't get in too much trouble cause the person was already dead." How old were they? She was 9 years old. I had a student while I was doing my student teaching, 8th grade. He was constantly in trouble, but during the times he was in class, he just stared off with the most vacant look in his eyes. It truly scared me. It was downright creepy. One day he was up at the whiteboard writing some stuff. I think it was correcting sentences, with a bunch of other kids who were doing the same thing. I wasn't watching the kids at the board, and all of a sudden I hear this blood-curdling scream and look over. He had brought a hypodermic needle and had stabbed the girl next to him in the leg. He had been holding it in his hand the entire time, just waiting for the opportunity to stick someone. It was, of course, terrible, but the girl turned out okay. The worst part, besides that, was how he laughed when security came to get him. Ugh, I'm shuddering now just thinking about it. Had a high school freshman who was a very boisterous kid and youthful for his age. One day he was being disruptive and acting up, so I asked him to step out of the room with me while my co-teacher continued the lesson. I calmly explained to him why I had taken him out, why his behavior was disruptive, and asked him to be more mindful in the future. He seemed attentive to me and to understand where I was coming from. Then, just as I was about to go back in with him, he says to me, "Okay, I'm gonna start crying so everyone thinks you yelled at me." I immediately put the brakes on. I asked him why he wanted to do that, why he felt it was okay to lie like that, and why he wanted to make me seem like a bad person, when I had been very polite and thought we had had a good interaction. He didn't have any good answers with me, but we had already spent enough time out of class. I got him to agree to go in quietly, and we went on with the lesson. Needless to say, it was a sign of things to come. He turned out to be a gossiping, backstabbing little social monster. The more mature kids learned to keep their distance from him, and he cultivated friendships with other kids who enjoyed his acting out and emulated it. We finished out the year on reasonable terms, but as he went on to other teachers with different classroom styles, his behavior worsened and derailed many classes. Had a kid that is basically Charles Manson. Has been aggressive before. Stabbing kindergarteners with scissors, hitting, biting, scratching. First grade began new behaviors. He would convince other kids to eat crayons, or to go tell other kids, to say hurtful things to others. This was also the year he became more controlling over girls. He would invite them to play, then if they didn't do what he said he would get the group to push the girl out. The result was the girls really wanted his attention. When the girls realized it wasn't worth it and began abandoning him, he became aggressive again. This year, second grade, he has begun trying to find like-minded kids and create a gang of bullies. Of course the staff are trying our best to curtail the behaviors, but the parents are very litigious. Multiple school psychologists and social workers have recommended individual therapy in social minutes, but the parents insisted it wasn't needed. They said that we were lying about the behaviors and wanted their own social services person to come in for observation. So obviously the student was on his best behavior. He is not stupid by any means. He knew what was up. The parents then used those findings to stonewall us for 6 more months. I do not believe any child beyond saving. But there are kids that really cannot be saved by public schools. This kid needs more social/psych minutes, smaller classes, and more adult attention. We just don't have the money to provide that, especially when parents want to fight us every step tooth and nail. Wow, you made it to the end. Thank you for watching, mate. Smash that like button and subscribe for more daily content.